Hello. Happy Wednesday. Happy lunchtime, or at least most of you have already had your lunch if you're working today. And if you're online scrolling right now on Facebook, YouTube, maybe even on our 92q.com website, hopefully you stop right here, especially if you have a child or children who are turning 4 or 5 by September 1st, because guess what? It's time to leap into learning. Yes, it's time to let their hand go and send them on off to school. And today we are going to be talking about registration for pre-K and kindergarten. Now, if you're recognizing my voice, but you're not recognizing the face, my name is Chey Parker. I am 1/3 of the Quicksilver Morning Show. You can listen to us every single weekday from 6 to 10 a.m. We have a lot of fun. We make you laugh, we make you cry, but we also try our best to keep you informed. Just like right now, where we will be talking about registering for Baltimore City Public Schools. Now, every time I do one of these lives, I have to bring some friends along, right? Some friends who know what they're talking about. And today I will have two friends talking with us about registration for school. First up, please welcome for the first time to our Radio 1 Lives, Miss Kia Monique Martin, who is a specialist for pre-K and kindergarten enrollment for Baltimore City Public Schools. Hi, Miss Martin.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Yes, good afternoon. Thanks so much for joining us. And last but certainly not least, we have Betsy Decker, who is a early learning educational associate with Baltimore City, Public Schools. Welcome.
Hi there.
Hello. Now, you two know all about registration, and I am sure you get lots of questions all the time. So, fingers crossed, I'm not going to ask you anything that you don't know, but hopefully, we will answer all the questions that parents and those in our village who help raise our kids want to know. So, we are just going to hop right on in and get started. My first question, and either of you can take this before we really start getting into the nitty gritty. I want to ease some of those parents' emotions and nerves about sending their kid to school for the first time, whether it's pre-K or kindergarten. That transition can not only be a lot for the kids, but also a lot for the parents. What would you say to them right now as they prepare to register their child?
Well, pre-K is a whole lot of fun, and kindergarten is too. When you come to city schools, we get to play, to learn, and meet a whole lot of other families and kids. But in the meantime, if you're curious about what's going on in the classrooms or at individual schools, I'd check out their social media accounts, look for their open houses, and see if you can attend some events throughout the spring to get familiar with your neighborhood school or any other school that you're interested in attending.
Awesome. Yes. And the most important question is who can enroll? Who can enroll in pre-K and kindergarten? We can talk about age requirements, but also any other eligibility requirements that they need.
So, to qualify for pre-K, the child must be 4 by September the 1st, 2026. September the 1st. For kindergarten, they must be 5 by September the 1st for kindergarten. Now, there are some layers to that depending upon the child's date of birth. If the date of birth is between September the 2nd and September the 30th, then that student can possibly qualify for a pre-K waiver.
Okay.
And so Betsy, if she handles the pre-K waivers, and so she can go into more detail about the waivers and how that works, because there are some stipulations and qualifications for the pre-K waiver. But just to answer your question, they must be 4 by September 1st.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And Betsy, how exactly do those waivers work? I know there's a parent probably watching right now and they're like, okay, so my child actually turns 4 on September 5th. Can I get a waiver to get them into pre-K?
Yeah, so I know those dates are really tricky. And, to be honest, we need to have a cutoff somewhere. So September 1st it is. But Pre-K is funded as an intervention, which means that we're trying to get kids who need that extra time into school before school is mandatory at age 5. So for kiddos who have a birthday between September 2nd and September 30th, if they also qualify as priority 1, which we'll talk about in a minute with qualifications for pre-K, and they have a demonstrated educational need that warrants an extra year in pre-K, then they can apply for the pre-K waiver. That extra year of pre-K means that they will be spending 2 years in pre-K. So a pre-K waiver is actually not for kids who are ahead or, feel are accelerated academically or socially, but for kids who might need just a little bit of extra time, but don't turn 4 before that September 1st date. Families can apply for the pre-K waiver between August 1st and August 15th. So well into the summer. That'll come up on the City Schools website on the pre-K and kindergarten registration page. They'll fill out that application there and send it into the email address on the application and get approval within a week or so. That enrollment period is well after the open enrollment period for the children who are age eligible. We want to make sure we get those kids who are age eligible in first to fill up those seats and then fill the remaining seats with kids who qualify for that pre-K waiver. Now, if you have a kiddo who you think is advanced and needs to get into school early, we recommend that you look into our partnerships with Head Start and with community-based organizations who offer free full-day pre-K for 3 and 4-year-olds. Do pre-K there, and then if you're still feeling like they're ahead, they can come look at the early admission process for kindergarten.
Okay, that's good information. And what if I have a child who has been in pre-K and, they're turning 5 within, the first 30 days of September? How does that work? Would they have to do pre-K again if you want to keep them in school, or can they move forward to kindergarten without meeting that September 1st deadline?
So there is an opportunity for children who have those advanced social and academic skills who turn 5 between September 2nd and October 15th. Those are the state mandated dates, to apply to sit for an assessment for early admission to kindergarten. This also applies for children who will be turning 6 between those dates to test into first grade. That application is actually open right now. It's alongside the general application for pre-K and kindergarten on the City Schools website on the pre-K and kindergarten registration page. That one, it's just a really quick application that you fill out and email back in. You'll get a response within a couple of days, and then you'll get scheduled for an assessment, which will happen in June. Now, you heard that I said the assessment happens in June, but our pre-K and kindergarten enrollment window only goes through April 17th. So if you are one of those families that's trying to apply for early admission to kindergarten, we really strongly recommend that you still enroll in pre-K right now to ensure that your child has a seat somewhere, regardless of how that early admission assessment goes. And then if it's, high scoring up in the stars, then we'll just scoot them right into kindergarten in our student management system. But if they need to spend a little bit of time in pre-K, they already have that seat available to them.
Great. Thank you so much for that information, Betsy. That was awesome. And let's hop into enrollment requirements and documents that are needed to enroll. I know oftentimes with all the things we have to enroll in this life, especially say you're going, to register your new car, and you always seem to forget something on the A list.
Yes.
Or the this list and the that list. Can you talk a little bit about what parents absolutely need, and at what part in the process to make sure that their child is enrolled in school successfully?
So right now for the enrollment process, the documentation that's required for the online portion, you must have a valid ID. The parent must have a valid ID, the child's birth certificate or a passport, 2 proofs of address, and 2 proofs of income. Now, that's only for pre-K. For the proof of income, it must be within 30 days, and for the proof of address, within 60 days. For kindergarten, it's the same exact documentation, minus the income documentation. And that's strictly for the online process. Once the algorithm is ran, the email is sent out to notify parents of the school their child will be attending. At that time, they will receive an offer letter that outlines next steps and the additional documentation that must go to the school directly, which would include an IEP, if applicable, of course, any court documents of guardianship, if applicable, of course, the physical, the shot records, those type of things. All of that will be outlined in the offer letter. And the schools also will be able to see who have accepted the offer to their school, so they can reach out early, follow up, make sure parents are aware of the offer letter that's on their account, so they'll know what they need to do next, and making sure the preparation is smooth and they're ready for the first day of school.
Awesome. And for all of our viewers who just may be tuning in to our live session, welcome. Welcome. If you have a child who is turning 4 or 5 by September 1st, maybe you know someone who has a child, you're a part of a village of that child, then you need to stay right here. We are talking about school registration for pre-K and kindergarten, which is open right now through April 17th. I'm talking to two of my good friends from Baltimore City Public School System. Of course, Miss Betsy Decker and Miss Kia Monique Martin. So we're going to keep this thing moving. All of our viewers out there, if you have a question at any point, or maybe even a comment, please feel free to share it. We want to make sure this is an open discussion and that we get all of your questions answered in this session. So let's keep it going. Now, for the parents who are sending their kids to school for the first time, what can they do ahead of time to sort of start to prepare their child and prepare themselves? A lot of times I think parents think their child is going to be the one kicking and screaming because they don't, want to leave their side. And a lot of times it's the parent that's kicking and screaming, but there's always somebody kicking and screaming. How can they best prepare so that that first day of school is a happy, memorable moment for everyone?
Go ahead, Betsy, you can start.
Okay, so there's a lot of things you can do. Start by reading books about school, talk about school. I know the Enoch Pratt Free Library has tons and tons of recommendations around like prepping for kindergarten and preschool, pre-K. They have tons of books that you can ask your local librarian about to read those. Visit the school, go to the playground, practice how you get to school, whether it's going to be on a bus, in a car, or walking. Try to meet some neighborhood friends who are around the same age. See if you can attend events over the summer, which we're really excited to have this enrollment period earlier so that schools and families can begin connecting a lot more over the summer. Some schools host some summer programming for our rising pre-K and kindergartners, so look into that. And then lastly, make sure you're following Baltimore City Early Learning on Facebook and on Instagram. On Instagram, it's Great Futures Start Early. And on both of those platforms, there's going to be a day-by-day, at least 30 days, I might extend it to 60, of activities you can do each day to be counting down and getting ready for pre-K and kindergarten. I'll also add in that I've got a little around this age, and my child was the screamer, so I know exactly how that feels. And I promise you it gets better after a few days of dropping off. Teachers will help you. It will be fine.
Right. They'll get used to it. It's all new territory, Now, this is a great question that I'm sure many folks have out there. Is pre-K only available to low-income families? Are low-income families prioritized when it comes to getting a seat in pre-K?
So those are two different questions.
Okay.
No, it is not only available to families with low income, but yes, families with low income are prioritized. In fact, all families who qualify as priority 1, which means have income below 300% of the federal poverty level, are experiencing homelessness, are receiving special education services with an IEP or an IFSP, or learning English for the first time. All of those families qualify as priority 1, and those students are placed first by the algorithm. In addition to some other factors like if a sibling is enrolled or if they live in zone. However, there is plenty of space in city schools for every single student who wants to enroll. Because there is a cap of the number of students in each pre-K class at 20, because we don't want 44-year-olds running around anywhere.
Absolutely not.
And there's only so much physical space in schools. You might not get a seat at your neighborhood school, your zoned school, or your like top preference. But overall in city schools, we have plenty of space. But in the case that you do not get a spot at a school that's close enough for you, again, you can work with some community partners, and you can find out more about that on the city schools registration page way down at the bottom.
Okay.
And I want to add to that also, if families do not know where they fall, they can go to the pre-K and kindergarten webpage on the Baltimore City website in order to see a chart that outlines by household size what that income looks like. And so they'll kind of know where they fall. But as Betsy stated, the algorithm does take priority one families as first priority as one of several considerations when the school is selected.
Okay. Good
But
to
all
know.
families can apply.
And all at the same time.
Apply, all at the same time. There's no set time. All families can apply right now.
Today.
Yeah, and I'm wondering also too, another question for you ladies as a follow-up. Does it matter at what point I apply between now and April 17th? Does applying early help my chances at all? Or
I'm so glad you asked the question. I'm so glad, because families, we can see everything as it comes in daily. We get reports and updates. And so many families enroll on the first day. It does not matter. It's not first come, first serve. You have until the 17th of April. You can apply at 10 o'clock at night on the 17th. And that still could possibly put you ahead of a family with all the considerations that the algorithm uses to create the school offer. So no, it does not matter. It is not first come, first serve. Once you submit your application, you still can go in and edit and make any changes, updates if you so choose. I always recommend families to do their research to find out the bell schedule of the schools, if they have aftercare. These different components do assist with families making their decision as to where they want to send their child. Sometimes they just know, but there are also those situations where they do not. And then after the offer comes out, I sometimes get calls. Hey, Ms. Martin, can we change the school? They let out at 3 o'clock. This conflicts with my work schedule. So there's so many components to consider when making these choices. And so you have until the 17th. There's no rush. Take your time. Go in and out as many times as you like. Even after you submit, you still can go in and edit as many times as you like until the 17th of April at 11:59 p.m.
Okay.
Literally.
Okay. So taking your time when you go through this process is important. Rushing doesn't necessarily help you in a sense.
No, because on the back end, it comes back on me, and they want me to be,
do all the changes, yeah,
to make it happen, and but they can select 1 to 3 schools. Okay. They'll see once they go into enroll, you have the option to select, of course, a minimum of 1, a maximum of 3. It's not mandatory. I always recommend a minimum of 2 schools. As Betsy stated, pre-K caps at 20 seats. So for those schools who are highly requested with 1 pre-K classroom, they typically fill up in Sims. And so it's possible they may get the second choice. So for certain schools, I'll throw out Roland Park. They always fill up in Sims. They have 1 pre-K classroom. So they always fill up those 20 seats.
Okay. And I guess pre-K is pretty competitive out here these days.
Yeah, listen, you would think it was Harvard, Johns Hopkins.
Yes.
I'm like, it's just pre-K.
Yes.
But just pre-K, it's so great.
But it confirms that pre-K is a firm foundation to get you started on that journey all the way to 12th grade. Because I believe if you have a firm, strong foundation, when you start strong, you finish strong.
Yes. That's so true.
Our data supports that too. That
Absolutely.
Kids who come to pre-K are markedly more prepared for kindergarten and are 3 times more likely to be reading by 3rd grade.
Okay. Yes. All right. So you heard that, parents. Get on it. Get on it. Make sure you're on top of your stuff, so that you can make sure your child has a spot in pre-K. Now, say I register, I choose, my two schools, and I end up getting the second choice school.
Mhm.
Is there a opportunity, or are there any options when it comes to appealing that decision, or still trying to get into that first choice school? Or say now I have a completely different third choice that I want my child to get into.
Miss Parker.
I
No,
know.
But no, it's a
I
real,
know.
it's a real question, and that does happen sometimes. And so, again, to reiterate the choices, I highly recommend that not highly recommend, you should put the schools in order of preference. The algorithm does not select the school at random. It literally goes 1, 2, 3. So if you put Callaway first, the algorithm will consider Callaway first. If there is seat availability, your child will be placed at that first school of choice. The algorithm only goes by the application. It does not throw another school in there. It literally goes based off of the pre-selected list in your application. And so, to answer your question, if the family gets the second choice, that's because when the algorithm ran, that first choice was not available. And it's highly likely that that first school will not be available. However, I work with all families to make sure that the students are placed. Some students are not placed, especially it goes back to my point of selecting more than one school. If they select only one school and they are not selected for that school, then there is no school at all, correct? Which means I then have to work with that family for availability to see if I can place them in a nearby school or school of their choice, but it's all based off of seat availability. Families do have 5 days to accept or deny. And so some seats sometimes free up because after the 20, so let me backtrack. On the 18th of May, that's when all families will be notified in their account of the school that's been offered. They have 5 days to accept or deny. On the 22nd, if they do not accept or deny, then the offer will automatically be accepted by the system. If they do deny that seat, then that seat becomes available. And so then I kind of cross-reference the students who did not get a school at all with the seats are now that have freed up. So there has been times where I've been able to place a student who did not receive that offer. I can place them because someone also denied from that same school. So it just really depends. But I definitely put forth the effort to work with that family to place the student at a school with seat availability.
Awesome. And again, if you are just now tuning in to our live session, Leaping into Learning Pre-K and Kindergarten registration happening right now through April 17th. So again, if you have a child or know of a child in your village who's turning 4 or 5 by September 1st, it's time to let them spread their little wings and fly.
Yes.
Now, as a follow-up to the question about applying and registering and getting a spot with one of those options that you select on your application, if my child doesn't get a spot, I know we talked about some of the community partners, and then also the Head Start opportunity as well. As a parent, how do I determine what would be best for my child? Or how do I even go about choosing whether it's Head Start or another community partner?
So there's a lot to consider when you are thinking about what kind of early education experience you want your kids to have. And of course, lots of us have multiple children. And so you have an older one enrolled in city schools, and you're going to want the younger one in the city school too, so that you're doing one drop off and one pickup every day. But you also might find that you need more wraparound services or extended hours, or maybe something closer to your home. Or, like you said, you didn't get a spot in your preferred school, and so now you're just looking to something that you can get to easily. Looking into Head Start and these community-based providers might meet a lot of those needs. For Head Start, we have 4 subgrantees in Baltimore City. They are not managed by the school system. You will have to look those up through the Baltimore City website, not the Baltimore City Schools website, and find out about each one. Contact those individual locations that are closest to you to find out about their enrollment process. When it comes to community-based providers, those are some Head Starts, some child care organizations, and some family and home daycares that have applied for state-funded seats for pre-K. So it's pre-K just like is in city schools, managed by the state, not managed by the local school system. Those also, you're going to have to look for the individual site. You can find the list of sites on the city schools website on the pre-K and K registration page way at the bottom, but you can also find it at baltimoreprek.com. That's just a little landing page that we created so that you can see all of the options you have for early care and education in Baltimore. Contacting those and just talking to the providers is the best way to find out about what will meet your needs. But looking at a map to see what's near your house or near your place of work is super helpful. And like Kia Monique mentioned before, finding out about what their bell schedule is, their hours, all of that is really important. Mostly just ask questions. You can ask through our social media, you can ask other parents, or you can call those providers.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. And if any of our viewers right now have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. We have about 4 more minutes left of our session. And if you would like to go ahead, if you feel like you are ready to register your child for pre-K or kindergarten, you will find at the top of the screen here the link to go ahead and apply. Now, Miss Kia Monique and Miss Betsy, my next question for you is this, because a lot of parents are concerned about how their child uses technology while in school, whether it's for learning purposes. I remember back in my day, and I'm in my 30s, but back in my day, I didn't even get a cell phone, until I was in 8th grade. And now these days, the kindergartners have their iPads, they have cell phones,
Yes.
all the things. So
All the things.
yeah,
Yes.
you talk a little bit about how technology is used in a pre-K or kindergarten classroom and how that virtual interaction is. What can parents expect?
Yeah, so we've seen a really significant shift overall in technology usage by kids under 5 since about 2015. And then since the pandemic shut down and we had to do all that virtual learning, it's increased even further. It definitely is having effects, both positive and negative, on our kids, but it's something that we've been watching really closely and are working to make kind of common sense policy around in our schools. So in pre-K, screen time is super low. It really, you shouldn't be seeing a lot of that used in pre-K at all. It's more the student-to-student interaction, teachers reading aloud, kids getting those hands-on experiences through play. Our assessment in pre-K does happen on an iPad. It's only 10 minutes to 15 minutes a week, so hardly any time at all. And then the teachers get that information so that they can very quickly use it right away to plan for the individual needs for kids. In kindergarten, there is currently a little bit more tech usage. There are several learning apps that students use, but they really shouldn't be the majority of the day. Most of the time, students should be interacting with one another. We do also have a policy around what happens on inclement weather days. We've seen those come up a lot recently.
Yes.
Those first 3 days, we get to have just free snow days like we did when we were kids. And then after that, it does switch to remote learning. There are platforms available for our older kiddos to get on, but our younger ones very often have direction from their teachers to be working on more hands-on things. In pre-K, we actually have a whole kit that goes home. It's all these materials that go right with our curriculum, so you can continue learning right alongside. Families can log on to a portal to find out more about how to use those materials, but they don't have to, and that screen use is actually not for the kids, but for the adults. I hope that answered the question. That was a lot.
Yes. No, it did. That was a great answer. Because it's hard out here. And I feel like even us as adults our attention span is impacted and affected by the way that we use our own electronic devices. And so I can only imagine how that is, managing it inside of a classroom.
Totally. If your family
Yeah.
wants a little more guidance on that too, it's actually one of the things that we're posting about this month on the early learning social media around like the guidelines from the American Academy of Pediatrics or stuff like that, and how to reduce your screen time if you're feeling like you have too much.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's a great question in our comment section. What if I have more than one child to enroll? Will they get selected together for the same school? Is that a part of the consideration process? How does that work?
So, depending upon the ages of the children, because I'm pre-KK, so if they're a different grade, I do have associates who make sure that the siblings are put together if they're in the same grade. Yes. In the same school, rather. In the same school.
Gotcha.
Yes.
And one last question before we wrap this thing up here. If I don't think my child is ready for kindergarten yet, but they will be the mandatory school age by September 1st, what can I do?
So in that circumstance, and it does happen for a variety of reasons.
Frequently, yes.
Yeah. If you have a legitimate concern about your child not being ready for kindergarten when they are going to be 5 by September 1st, you can fill out what's called a level of maturity waiver. That link is going to be available on the City Schools website on the pre-K and K registration page, and it will say level of maturity waiver. That just gets sent to our office for us to just check in and make sure that we're not just running away from school, that there's real concerns. Mm-hmm. If a family does have concerns and does complete that waiver application and it is approved, they can spend that extra year in pre-K. So you can enroll in pre-K. We'll just have to contact Ms. Martin to make sure that we can get through the application. But they don't have to come to pre-K. They can also spend the year somewhere else in childcare or whatever else works for the family. The following year, you are mandated to enroll in kindergarten. So just make sure that if you do fill out that level of maturity waiver, you are coming back the following year after you've gotten a little more experience and enrolling in kindergarten.
And I want to add really quickly, I know we're over time, and as Betsy stated, to let me know about the approval, because once it's approved, I have to adjust the online system because it's generated based off of the birthday. So due to the date of birth, it will generate a kindergarten application. So if you have that approval letter of level of maturity, I can go into the system, make the adjustment, and then the pre-K application will generate.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much to both of you, Miss Kia Monique Martin, and of course, Miss Betsy Decker.
Thank you so much.
Our experts, our specialists, and our educational associates from Baltimore City Public Schools. If you are someone who just jumped onto this live and you're like, wait, it's over already? I have questions. We are ending, so you did miss the boat. But the good news is that the boat is going to stay at the dock. This live will be available for replay. So I definitely encourage you to watch it all the way through. I promise you that Betsy or Kia Monique answered a question that you have about registering your child for school, many of you for the first time. Now, again, registration is open right now through April 17th, 11:59.
That's it.
9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Absolutely.
And if you need the link, you can find it right here on the screen if you feel like you are now ready to go ahead and register your child for school. This is an exciting time. So congrats, parents, to keeping a human alive for at least 4 or 5 years. And getting them ready for school, because this is not only a big moment for you, but also a big moment for your child and for your village. So thank you again, Betsy and Kia Monique.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah.